All right. Let's see what this week holds for us in programming. After writing our first program, we're not going to write a program this week. We're going to have a regular lesson, regular assignment, and then we're going to write another one next week. Let's go to our grade screen as usual. All right, we see printing strings was our first program. It was 100 points due last night. I didn't see a whole lot of people had trouble with it. Most people just breezed right through it. And of course, if you looked at the lesson on how to do it, made it real easy, right? So you guys did really well. This week we're going to do 1.04 processing string values. See, we were printing strings. Now we're going to process string values. And then next week will be string input, which is another program. And then we have the exam to end the unit. So we're getting towards the end of the first unit here. Let's go take a look at 1.04 back on the activity screen. Processing string values. All right, Legos are great. You ever watch that Lego show on television where they compete to build stuff? All the Great Lego Challenge or whatever. Lots of Legos are awesome. And while some things are great on their own, when you put them together, that's when they're really good. Makes them a force to be reckoned with. The same applies to strings in programming. You can pull them apart, put them together, and the awesomeness ensues. So we're going to learn how to assign string literals to variables with meaningful names. So we use variables here, just like in math, when you use X and Y as variables. We use variables in computing a lot, but we get to give them more colorful names than just X and Y. We're going to use concatenation to join string literals. Concatenations where you take multiple things and you put them together to be one thing, like Legos. You put them together to make one bigger thing. That's also, you can do that in Microsoft Excel with mathematics and other things. We're going to use slicing or indexing to extract characters. So we're going to get into a lot of different things here. And then use a print statement to display information. So let's look at how we get into all of this stuff, because it's some interesting thing. String values and variables. So in 2014, Warner Brothers released a Tom Cruise action movie. It was based on a Japanese light novel. They had some trouble deciding on the title of this novel. At first, they went with the name of the book. The book was named All You Need Is Kill. Remember, it was a Japanese novel, so that may not make much sense in English. All you need is kill. That's not really good English, but it's not written in English. It's written in Japanese. Our brains take information like this, and they can store it easy. We create a variable in our minds called movie title, and we give it a string value like all you need is kill. But then Warner Brothers realized audiences didn't like that title. They said, okay, it's not getting good feedback. So they're going to change it. So suddenly now they changed it to Edge of Tomorrow. Edge of Tomorrow. It's a pretty good movie, too. I've seen that one. Edge of Tomorrow. So All You Need Is Kill changed. So when they released the movie in theaters, audiences still did not like the new name. So they changed it again. When they put it out on DVD and Blu-ray, they had a new name called Live, Die, Repeat, which is kind of the theme of the movie. Sometimes there appeared to be a second movie title with the value Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow, just so it kind of related to what the name was when it was in the theaters. So while our human brains are great, we can only remember so much. So that's where computers are helpful. Programming languages like Python are able to store string values for us when we might forget them. Later, we can ask Python to recall them when we need them. So let's learn how to assign values to variables. So let's say you need to remember some information. The way moviegoers try to remember the name of the movie that kept changing. So instead of storing it in your human memory, you can store information in your computer's memory using Python. So this is called assigning a string value to a variable. To assign a string value to a variable, follow this example. So look at each part. Here's like movie title. That is the variable name. Now notice there's no spaces. No spaces at all in there. The first word is not capitalized, but the second word is. That kind of helps us break up the word in our mind. If it was all small letters, then you got to figure out where the first word ends and the second word begins. But capitalizing that second word separates it in your brain like there's a space. Our brain can see the space even though it doesn't exist. Movie title. And then we put an equal sign. says, okay, movie title equals. So that means this variable called movie title, here's the value that we're going to give it. And then we put it in quotes. Quote, live dot space, die dot space, repeat dot. And then close the quotes. So we're saying literally whatever we put in quotes is what we want you to make movie titles equal to. This line of Python code is an example of an assignment statement. That's a statement that assigns a value to a variable. The value is to the right of the equal sign and the variable's on the left side. So in an assignment statement, you tell Python that this variable is assigned this string value, this number of letters and spaces and characters, whatever's in quotes. So let's walk through this Python guided activity. All right. Hashtag. Right? That tells us that Python ignores that. That's just for us to read, so we know what it's talking about. Assignment statement sample. We have our define main. So there's our main function. There's the end of our main function. So let's see what's inside the main function. Only one thing. Movie title equals quote, Edge of Tomorrow, quote. So when we run that, what's going to happen? Nothing, because we didn't tell it to print it. All we did is we assigned a value to a variable, right? So nothing prints there, nothing at all. But let's look at the next part. Now we've added a print statement. Print, and we just say print that variable. And then notice we're not putting quotes around this because we don't want it to print the word movie title. We want it to print what movie title equals. So when we run this, it prints out Edge of Tomorrow because that is what movie title is equal to. That's what we assign to it. If we put this in quotes, just to remind us, then we're saying literally print what I put in quotes. So it would just print movie title. But we don't want it to literally print movie title. We want it to print whatever that variable is equal to. It's kind of like x equals 3. We don't want us to say x equals x because we know x equals x. We don't want to say the movie title, print the movie title. That's just where we're holding this value. So when we print, it prints Edge of Tomorrow. Let's look at the next one. Now we've added 2 more lines. This is still the same, Edge of Tomorrow and print movie title. Now we've taken the same variable and we're changing what it is equal to. Now movie title equals live, die, repeat with periods and spaces. And print it again. So when we run this program, we printed the same thing twice, the variable movie title, but we have 2 different outputs because movie title, the value of that changed in between those statements. We set it equal to this, we printed it, we set it equal to this, we printed it. Edge of Tomorrow, live, die, repeat. All right, let's look at slide 4. Read the code, try to predict the output. All right, so this says movie title equals Edge of Tomorrow, print movie title, and it prints movie title because it's in quotes, right? Take off the quotes. Now run it. Edge of Tomorrow. See, you got to know when to use those quotes. I only use those quotes when that is exactly what I want it to show. What I put in the quotes. Let's look at the last one. Hashtag assignment statements. Define main. So now we have something called first name equals Augusta. And we're going to print first name. Now notice again, no space. First name is all one word, but you capitalize the second one so that our brain will automatically put that space in and separate the words. Run program. Look, Augusta. It says write the code to assign values to the variables middle name and last name. The name is to use is Augusta Ada Lovelace. Right now it only prints Augusta. So now it wants us to add the variable's middle name equals Ada, and we need last name equals Lovelace. Notice we got to put all those in quotes because that's exactly where we want it to be. And now let's print middle name and print last name. So now we have three variables. One's first name, one's middle name, one's last name. We know what those variables are because we named them something that makes sense. I could have called it X, Y, and Z. Print X, print Y, print Z. But if we have a very long program and later on we talk about Y, then we're like, what was Y? I don't remember what Y was. But if we say middle name, print middle name, yeah, middle name. That makes sense. Run program. Augusta Ada Lovelace. There you go, the first programmer back in the 1850s, if you remember from our earlier lessons. So we assigned values to the variables and then printed the variables. So that's how that works. Okay, that's slide 5 of 5. Now we're going to learn some more about these strings and what we can do with them when we assign variables. So let's talk about the naming protocol for variables. Like most things in life, like asking to borrow the car or impressing somebody, there's both rules and good practices to keep in mind when you're naming variables. Rules. So the rules, these make sure Python can process it correctly. Good practices just make your life easier. Python may even do it if it's not a good practice, but good practices just help. So let's look at the rules. Do. So here's some rules. Begin variable names with a letter or an underscore. We could call it underscore movie title. After the first letter, the variable name can contain digits or other letters. Movie title 1, so we can put a 1 at the end of it. Those are rules that Python says, I'm okay with that. Now here's things you cannot do or you'll get errors because this is against Python's rules. It cannot be a Python keyword. Right? The keywords are commands that it has. You know, false, none, true, and, as, assert, break, class, continue. All of these are printing commands. These are program commands for Python that tells it to do something else. And if you use that as a variable name, it's going to get confused. It'd be like saying print equals Bob. And it's like, wait a minute, print is a command. It's not a variable that I can store something in. You know, for, global, from. So all of these are things we cannot use as variable names. Variable names may not contain spaces. We can't say movie space title. That is against the rules of Python. It will not know what you're trying to do. It will give you an error. And here's another rule. Variable names may not contain punctuation. Like we can't say movie title exclamation mark. If we put exclamation mark after it, Python, again, will give you an error because it says, what are you trying to do? I don't understand this. So those are rules. Those are things you have to do correctly in order for it to run. Now, here's some good practices. Good practices. It's a good practice to use camel case when you name your variables. Camel case, that's a style convention in which the first letter of the name appears as lowercase. And if there's any other words or phrases, we capitalize it. That's why movie title is in camel case. It's all small letters except for the T, because that's a new word. Movie title. When you add a new word, you capitalize it. That's called camel case. So here's new car. There's a good example of it. The C is capitalized. And this one, this would work. Python would be happy with new car. It's not against the rules. But it's just not good practice because you have to look at that and figure out where the words divide at. Now, this is a simple one. It's new car. It's very small. But if you have a multiple words, much longer, you want to capitalize each new word in the variable so our brains will automatically separate those words. So when a variable name contains 2 or more words, because we could have new movie title, right? Like movie title, new car, programmers use the camel case style convention. First letter is lowercase. The first letter of each word is capitalized after that. All right. Also use a meaningful name, right? If we use new car, Okay, well, that's going to mean something when we look at it later. Okay, if we just call that DSA, 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 DAS, okay, Python's fine with that if that's what we want to call our variable, but it doesn't mean anything to us, and we're going to forget what that is. What did I use that for? What was I storing that? That's not good practice. Use a meaningful name. Make it a reasonable length. Python is totally fine with you having a long variable like this. New car that I want when I finally graduate. That can be my variable. I can make a variable in Python. It's totally fine. That's not against the rules. I even use camel case. Yeah, each new word is capitalized. Car that I want when I finally graduate. But that's just not a reasonable length. Use a reasonable length. New car. And try to use nouns. Don't use verbs. New car. Not drive so fast, new car. So make it a nice camel case, reasonable length noun as your variable name. All right, drag and drop the variable names into the correct boxes. So which ones are valid and which are not valid? Now that means against the rules or not against the rules. Let's see. If we have a variable called sales tax, valid or invalid? It says valid or invalid, right? Sales tax. Okay, I'm saying no, it's not good. Put it in invalid. It's because there's a space in it. Python won't know what to do with it. How about first name? Thumbs up, thumbs down. First name. Yeah, first name works well. It's no spaces. We capitalize the N. That's really, it's even got good practice in it. Zip code. Zip code. No zip code. It's got a space in it. How about time? Can we use time? Yeah, time's fine. Sure. Yeah. Doesn't have to be more than one word. It doesn't have to be at all. Random value. No space, capital V. Very good. How about class? Oh, and I think, got to remember one thing. I think it's on the last page. Class is actually a Python command. That's on that list of things that we can't do. So class is actually an invalid. Let me put it in valid name, see what it tells us. See, it won't let me. Class is a actual, we'll learn this later in the year too. Class is something like print or define main, It's something that's a command. So Python doesn't like that. How about first name with a 1 at the beginning? Oh, yeah. Remember, we can't start it with a number. We can put numbers in it, but not as the first character. So that's not a valid name. City and state. City and state. Nope. I'm seeing no's. I'm seeing people shaking heads. There's spaces in it. Don't use that as a name. How about amount due? D is capitalized. No space. Amount due should work. And sum. Let's see. Sum. Yep. You dropped all the items in the correct category. So good job. So there was 5 that worked there, 5 that are not good names that don't work. Remember, class was just because it's a Python command. It's on that banned list on the commands. So, all right, page 4. So while assigning and printing string values can be super exciting, yay. Oh, trust us, it gets old, just assigning values. What's next? String operations. Doing things with those strings that you saved in those variables. So you can perform different operations like concatenation, indexing, and slicing to get new values. So let's make some Python combine some strings. So concatenating, that's putting things together, like building Legos. You got 3 Legos, you put them together. 2 or more strings can be combined to form one big one. This is called concatenation, combining 2 or more string values to form a single string. We'll use the plus symbol to make this happen. So let's look at this example that they give us right here. Hashtag concatenation example. So these examples are great when you have the assignment later and you don't remember, or if you're writing a program, you don't remember how to do it. Go back to these lessons that give you these samples because this shows you how it works in your program. All right, so we're defining main. We're going to read the code, try to predict the output. Word 1 is mother. Word 2 is board. Okay, so mother and board, those mean two very different things, right? Your mother or a board. But now if we print word 1 plus word 2, look, there's no quotes or anything. Here's what we get. We get motherboard. Now that means something totally different. That's part of a computer. That's where all the processor and your memory and everything is stored inside your computer on the motherboard. But see how easy it is to concatenate? We can just say print word 1 plus print word 2 and just put them together. It's called concatenating. I want all this to go on one print line. Like when we printed Augusta Ada Lovelace earlier, we did it on 3 different lines. But with concatenation, we could actually put those on one line. All right, let's look at their slide 2. Now, oh, this is an interesting way to do this. Word 1, we set equal to the word mother. We put it in quotes and assigned it to that variable. The second variable is word 2. We assigned it board. And then we made a third variable. And we said we want word 3 to equal word 1 plus word 2. Notice there's no quotes because if we put in quotes, it's different. When we run it, we only printed word 3. And word 3 was motherboard. If we would have used quotes here, now we've changed it. Using quotes, we'll get that because that's what word 3 equals. Word 2 plus word 1. So I don't want the quotes. I don't want the quotes because word 3 now contains motherboard. That was what word 3 now contains. So notice the difference there. All right, slide 3. Read the code, try to predict the output. Word 1 is mother. Word 2 is board. Word 3 is word 1 and word 2 concatenized. Print. Oh, now here's some concatenation. There's a bunch of concatenation going on in this print statement. Print. The original words are and a space after the word are. That's the first thing. And then we tell it concatenate that, add to this whatever the variable word 1 is equal to. Then I want you to also add to that everything that's in these quotes, which is space and space, and also word 2, and then also add a period at the end. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things being added together right here in this one print line. We're concatenating 5 different things. This one, we're concatenating 3 things. The new word is plus word 3 plus a period. Now let's run that, see what it looks like. The original words are mother and board. The new word is motherboard. This is a great example to go back and look at when you're trying to make this work in your program. How did that concatenation work things? How'd that work? How'd that thing work? Oh, that's right. Page 4 of the 1.04 lesson showed us. That's how you concatenate. Now, notice they put these extra spaces in there. If we didn't put spaces and you just said, all right, I want it to be, the original words are word 1 and word 2. When you print that, it's not going to look right. Mother and board. See, that's why those spaces are important. Add those spaces inside your quotes because we didn't want it to say the original words are mother and board. We want to put spaces inside our quotes. So it's mother and board. See, there's that space and space that was inside the quotes right there. All right, last slide for this. Here it is, Augusta Ada Lovelace that we printed earlier. Let's use concatenation to print the last name first, comma, first name, so it reads Lovelace, comma, Augusta. All right, so we need a print statement. We need to move it over underneath the other statements above it. So we're going to print last name. And then it says to print a comma. Well, what if we just did this? Print last name, comma, first name. Is that going to work? Oh, it actually did it kind of weird. It worked, but it did it like it was a list. Lovelace, comma, Augusta. But see, that's like it's a list, like it's listing items separately. That's not what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to just be Lovelace Augusta. So let's do it differently. Let's say plus concatenate a comma, and then we want a space after the comma. This is going to look different. This is actually a good comparison because, and then we need another plus. So we'll put spaces in there. So now we're saying print last name plus print a comma and a space plus print the first name. And see how that looks like a list. That didn't look like someone's name. Let's run it down. Oh, that looks so much better. That looks so much better. Lovelace, comma, Augusta. So while Python didn't have a problem with just putting the comma, it totally interpreted it differently. It says, oh, you're printing a list of things. So I'll just put a list in print. You put it in parentheses and put commas between it, like it was a list. So make sure you're getting what you're supposed to get as your output. All right, page 5. This is fun. The word motherboard is not very long or complicated, but there may come a time when you're dealing with a larger string of information and you need to pull out specific parts. Python can help you do this real easily. So this is where it gets a little tricky. You got to pay attention. Let's say you want to pull out one specific character from the string. You need the index position. That's the specific position of a character, right? The first index is 0. Excuse me. So this is going to be a little different. Let's say it's a little tricky, so you might want to wake up and pay attention to this. I tried. Indexing example. All right. Define main. This is where we have our word mother, the word board, and we put them together to make word 3 motherboard. And what we're wanting to do is print the first character. I don't want to print the whole word. I want to print the first character in motherboard, the first character, right? So I want to just print the M. Now, here's the thing is, if we count the characters, in the word motherboard, how many characters are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 characters in motherboard. But that's how you and I count the characters. Python does not count this way. Python does not start counting with 1. Python starts counting with 0. So Python would say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if we wanted to print D, we're wanting to print the 11th character, but for Python, we say print the character that's in index number 10, because that's how it numbers them. It numbers them 0 to 10. So when we say the character in index 0 is, now notice it's going to print that literally because that's what's in quotes. But here's the command you need to learn because we'll use this in our program next week. Word 3, and when we use this bracket, we're saying print the character in this order. It's in order 0. What's the 0 level character? And that's the end of the program. So let's run that. The character in index 0 is M. M. What if we wanted to print the B? So we would say that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the 7th character. But if we tell it to print index 7, it's not going to print the B. It's going to print the O because remember, it starts counting with 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. B is the number 6 character. We change that to there. Now it prints the B. So just remember, Python counts the number of characters starting with 0 instead of 1. All right, here's an indexing example. The character in index 8 is word 3, 8. So what's the 8th one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It'd be 7 for us, right? Oh, 8. I'm sorry, it'd be 9 for us because go back to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Starting with 0, 8 would be the A. All right, let's look at their slide 3. Oh, the initials are. This is good. Use indexing. Print the initials of this name. R. Let's concatenate. Let's put it in here. plus, so we want index, let's go back and look at our example, word 3. So indexing, you just tell which word with our brackets. So first name, and we want the very first letter, right? Because if we're printing the initials, that's the first letters, plus middle name, bracket 0 bracket, plus last name, bracket 0 bracket. So we're saying take each of these, first name, middle name, last name, and print the character that's in the index 0, which is the first letter. Run it. The initials are AAL. Al. So this is what it should. The initials are AAL. Oh, they put a little colon after it, but we could put a colon after it if they want to run that way. AAL. But all right. So that's indexing. We're going to look at one more thing here. Slicing. Slicing means we want more than one character, right? We want more than one character. So pulling out individual characters is not the only thing we can do. We can pull out groups of letters. Individual letters may not be that interesting, right? You might want to pull multiple letters from a string, and this can be a fun way to display hidden messages as you learn the code. So if you put 2 index values in the square brackets, you can take out a slice. See, word 4 equals word 3. The starting index is 1, which is the character O, like mother, right? And go to the 6th one. But this is how it's going to work in there. When you say 1 to 6, that tells Python, start with index number 1, but stop at 6. Do not use 6. That's like the stop. When you get to 6, stop. Don't do that one. So you're telling Python to assign a new variable word 4 as part of the string motherboard. Remember we said motherboard, and we say go from 1 to 6. So it's going to skip the M because M is 0. So it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it'll stop at 6 because that's where we told it to stop at. So there would just be the word other. Let's take a look at that in a sample right here. All right, so here is slicing example. Word motherboard, word 3 is word 1 plus 2. So we're still using the same example. Well, word 3 equals motherboard. But now we're creating a new variable called word 4. And we're going up to word 3, which is motherboard. And we're just taking the first, whatever's indexed in the first space, which is the second letter. Remember, that's 0. But we're stopping when we get to 6. Stop when you get to the B. We don't want the B. So the new word is other. So it takes 1 through 5. It skips 0 because we told it to start at 1, and it stops at 6. Next example. Motherboard. Same example here. Word 3. But now we're taking from word 3 characters 7, 8, and 9 and stopping when we get to 10. Just take 7, 8, 9. So that'd be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is O, 8 is A, 9 is R. But stop when you get to 10. Do not take 10. So now the new word is or. We just took the O, excuse me, the OAR. So that's our new word. All right, let's look at the next slide here. Augusta Ada Lovelace, print the new name is. All right, so that now that we want to make a new name called Audalace. Audalace. So it looks like we're taking the first 2 characters of the first name. We're taking the second and third characters from the middle name, and we're taking the last characters from the last name. We're supposed to display the new name in a print statement that will read, the new name is Audalace. If we need to refer to previous slides to do that, we can, but we'll say the new name is, so we need to concatenate there, plus. Okay, so we want the first 2 characters of Augusta to be the first 2 characters here. So that means we want first name, and we want the very first characters. That's 0, colon. We want 0 and we want 1. So that tell it to stop when it gets to 2. So give us 0 and 1 and stop when you get to 2. And then let's concatenate that with the middle name. In the middle name, we don't want the A. So we're going to skip 0. We're going to start with 1. And we want the second and third. So we want 1, we want 2, stop if you get to number 3, but there's not a number 3. Let's see if that creates a problem. But there's not 3. There's only 0, 1, and 2. And then we want to concatenate that with last name. And we want the lace at the end. So we don't want 0. We don't want 1. We don't want 2. We don't want 3. We want to start with the fourth character. 4, 5, 6, 7, and stop when you get to the 8th character, of which there's not 1. So let's see if that creates a problem telling it numbers that don't exist. Not at all. Right? The new name is Autolace. Oh, we didn't put a period on the end. They wanted us to put a period on the end. So we would concatenate. Oh, we can put a space there. Plus period in quotes. Put the period in quotes so it prints it. Now we got a period at the end of our sentence. But that's how that works. So be sure refer back to these examples that they give you. These guided activities are great for showing you how a command works and letting you play with it here in the program. We can go change things in here. So you should be able to go write that as well. So that is the end of the lesson. We learned about how to properly name variables. We learned about indexing. We learned about slicing. Let's look at the assignment that goes with this. Variable names may contain spaces and punctuation symbols. True or false? What's the following example of a variable written in camel case? Which one of those is proper? Donovan's assigning a string literal value to a variable. Which one is correct? Which one of these will work? Which one of these would not? Because one of these might give an error. Look at the following assignment statements. What's the proper way to concatenate the strings? And what's it called when you just pull one specific character out of a string? So that's it. You may have different questions because there's a bank of questions. Buzz has several questions you can pick from, so you might not have those exact same questions, but just 5 questions this week. Next week, we'll be writing a program using these commands. So make sure you understand what you're doing here. Make sure you go through and practice in those guided activities so that when you write in a program next week, you're already familiar with it. Otherwise, next week, you have to go back to this lesson and do a lot of studying on that in order to write your program properly. So, all right, that's it, guys. We have class. Oh, that's wrong. It's an A-day week, so we have class Wednesday and Friday if your grade is below 70. And if you turn in your program and get 100%, I guarantee you your grade is not below 70 because, you know, it's worth 100 points. But if you didn't turn it in, boy, that's going to sink your grade. So Wednesday and Friday, I'll be here if you need help. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.